The person who is currently ruining your life isn't a monster. They are an unconscious child in an adult's body. And the most terrifying part of this reality is that the exact same thing is true of you. You think of yourself as a good person. You pride yourself on your patience, your morality, your endless capacity to understand others. Yet you are secretly exhausted. You are constantly dealing with people who cross your boundaries, situations that drain your spirit, and a lingering resentment that you cannot quite explain. You want to know why you feel so powerless. It is because you have exiled the most vital part of your psyche into the basement of your mind. You have locked away your shadow, and by doing so, you have made yourself completely defenseless. Let us redefine what it means to be dangerous. Society has taught you that being dangerous means causing harm. That is a lie. Unconscious actors cause harm. They stumble blindly through life, projecting their internal chaos onto everyone around them, creating drama because they cannot sit in silence. True danger, the kind Carl Jung spoke of, is something entirely different. To become dangerous is to become whole. It is the absolute, unshakable sovereignty of a person who knows exactly what they are capable of. A dangerous person cannot be manipulated. A dangerous person cannot be guilt-tripped. A dangerous person sees the invisible strings of social conditioning and refuses to be attached to them. They do not react, they observe. They do not lash out, they discern. To become dangerous is to integrate the very things you were taught to hate about yourself. Look around you. The world is a theater of sleepwalkers. Everywhere you look, people are wearing heavy, suffocating masks. Jung called this the persona. It is the polite smile at the office. It is the carefully curated photograph on a screen. It is the nod of agreement when you entirely disagree. The persona is necessary for civilization, but most people have forgotten they are wearing a mask. They believe they are the mask. And every time you force yourself to smile when you want to scream, every time you bite your tongue to keep the peace, every time you play small so someone else can feel big, you do not simply erase that energy. Energy cannot be destroyed. It is pushed down into the dark. It becomes the shadow. The shadow contains everything you deem unacceptable: your anger, your selfishness, your sexual desires, your arrogance, your capacity for cruelty. But it also contains your raw power, your assertiveness, your unbridled creativity, your deepest, most authentic self. By cutting off your darkness to be a polite, socially acceptable character, you have castrated your own soul. You have made yourself harmless, and harmless people are not virtuous. Harmless people are simply incapable of action. When you are harmless, you invite every unconscious actor into your life to use you as a stage for their own unhealed wounds. If you want to be free, you must learn to read the signs of the unconscious. You must study the ways your exiled shadow is secretly pulling the strings of your life. There are 7 distinct manifestations of the unintegrated shadow. Watch for them in others, but more importantly, watch for them in yourself. The first manifestation is the righteous judge. Picture a dinner party. The ambient hum of conversation is interrupted by someone aggressively tearing down a coworker who recently received a promotion. They use moralistic language. They call the coworker greedy, arrogant, and ruthless. They frame their hatred as virtue. You have seen this. You have likely done this. This operates on the psychological mechanism of projection. When you absolutely despise a trait in someone else and your reaction is disproportionate, emotional, and obsessive, you are not looking at them. You are looking in a mirror. The sage reveal here cuts deep. The righteous judge is not actually angry at the coworker's greed. The judge is terrified of their own unlived ambition. They have suppressed their own desire to conquer, to rise, to be recognized, because they were taught it was selfish. So when they see someone acting out that forbidden desire freely, the shadow violently revolts. The sovereign counter is brutal honesty. The next time you feel a surge of intense moralistic hatred towards someone's success or behavior, stop speaking. Ask yourself what denied part of yourself this person is expressing. Reclaim your ambition. Own your selfishness. When you admit you want power, you stop resenting those who have it, and you start building your own empire. The second manifestation is the silent martyr. This is the exhaustion of the deeply nice person. Imagine the office worker who stays 3 hours late every Friday. They sigh heavily. They slump their shoulders. They make sure everyone sees how tired they are, yet they never ask for help. When offered assistance, they say it is fine. They will just do it themselves. This operates on the mechanism of covert contracts. The martyr believes that if they suffer enough, the world automatically owes them love, respect, and validation. They give entirely to get. The sage reveal exposes the hidden weakness behind the virtue. The martyr is not generous. The martyr is paralyzed by the fear of rejection. They are too frightened to simply say they want a raise or they demand respect. They use suffering as a manipulation tactic to induce guilt in others. The sovereign counter requires stepping out of the role of the martyr. If you recognize this in yourself, you must learn the terrifying art of being disliked. State your demands clearly. Say no without offering a lengthy apology. Drop the covert contracts. People will respect your boundaries infinitely more than they will ever respect your unasked for sacrifices. The third manifestation is the sudden tyrant. You know this person well. They are infinitely patient, endlessly accommodating until one day a minor inconvenience occurs. A dropped glass shatters on the floor. A driver cuts them off in traffic. Suddenly, their eyes change. A volcanic, terrifying rage erupts from them, completely out of proportion to the event. This is the mechanism of the breaking dam. The shadow is not a passive reservoir, it is alive. When you constantly suppress your natural aggressive instincts, they ferment. They turn into a localized pressure cooker within the psyche. The sage reveal shows that the sudden tyrant is actually a profoundly weak individual who cannot handle small daily confrontations. They swallow minor resentments because they fear conflict, allowing the poison to build until it demands destruction. The sovereign counter is controlled daily assertiveness. You must integrate your aggression. You must speak up the moment something bothers you, calmly and firmly. Aggression is not a bad word. Integrated aggression is the life force that protects your boundaries. When you bleed off the pressure daily, the tyrant vanishes, leaving behind a quiet, formidable presence. The fourth manifestation is the cynical observer. Walk into any social gathering or scroll through any digital forum, and you will find them. The person sitting on the edges smirking. They have a witty, tearing critique for everything. They mock the earnestness of others. They laugh at those who try and fail. They intellectualize every human emotion until it is sterile and meaningless. The mechanism here is intellectual armor. It is a defense strategy designed to prevent any real participation in life. The sage reveal cuts straight through this armor. The cynic is not smarter than everyone else. The cynic is terrified of their own vulnerability. Their shadow feels deeply inadequate. If they actually tried to build something, to love someone, or to create art, they might fail. and failure would shatter their fragile ego. So they sit in the cheap seats and throw stones at the gladiators in the arena. The sovereign counter to this shadow aspect is to strip away the irony. You must dare to care. You must allow yourself to be seen trying, sweating, and failing. When you abandon the safety of cynicism, you step into the terrifying, beautiful reality of actual existence. You trade the illusion of superiority for the substance of a lived life. The fifth manifestation is the savior illusion. Consider the chronic rescuer, the person who repeatedly enters relationships with broken, chaotic, or toxic partners. They spend all their time, money, and emotional energy trying to fix the unfixable. They manage their partner's finances. They soothe their partner's tantrums. They play the unpaid therapist. The mechanism here is externalization. It is far easier to focus on a blazing fire in someone else's house than to address the rotting foundation of your own. The sage reveal is that the savior is using the brokenness of others as a narcotic. By constantly rescuing, they never have to sit in the silent, terrifying room of their own unresolved trauma. Their shadow harbors a deep sense of unworthiness, whispering that they are only valuable if they are useful. The sovereign counter is a radical withdrawal of energy. You must realize that you cannot save anyone. You can only save yourself. Let the unconscious actors face the consequences of their own actions. Turn that intense fixing energy inward. When you stop saving others, you are finally forced to face the internal chaos you have been running from. The sixth manifestation is the saboteur's whisper. This is the shadow striking at the exact moment of your triumph. Imagine you finally land the job of your dreams, or you enter a deeply loving, peaceful relationship. Within weeks, you find yourself picking unnecessary fights. You start drinking too much. You procrastinate on the most critical tasks. You methodically dismantle your own happiness. The mechanism here is the ego's addiction to the familiar. If you grew up in chaos, peace feels like a threat. The sage reveal is that the shadow identifies with suffering. The unconscious mind believes it is entirely unworthy of the light. It prefers the familiar misery of the basement to the bright, exposed reality of the penthouse. The sovereign counter requires immense psychological endurance. You must learn to sit with the discomfort of goodness. When the urge to destroy arises, do not act. Observe it. Recognize the saboteur's voice as a frightened child throwing a tantrum because it does not recognize this new, safe environment. Breathe through the anxiety of success until it becomes your new baseline. The seventh manifestation is the flawless mask. This is the perfectionist, the person whose life appears impeccably curated. Their clothes are immaculate, their speech is measured, their routines are rigid. They never let anyone see them sweat, cry, or make a mistake. The mechanism is a desperate need for control. The sage reveal shows that beneath this polished exterior is a screaming, terrified shadow. The perfectionist believes that if they ever reveal a single flaw, they will be entirely abandoned by the world. They are trapped in a prison of their own making, terrified that someone will discover they are merely human. The sovereign counter is the intentional practice of imperfection. You must deliberately let the mask slip. Admit a mistake openly. Share a shameful story with a trusted confidant. The moment you expose a flaw and the world does not end, the spell of the flawless mask is broken. You realize that true connection is not built on perfection. It is built on shared humanity. These 7 manifestations are the dance of the unconscious. But knowing them is not enough. You must pivot. You must turn the spotlight away from the external world and point it directly at your own chest. Stop pointing fingers at the manipulators, the narcissists, and the betrayers in your life. Stop asking why the world is so full of unconscious actors. Ask a much more dangerous question. What hook in your soul allowed them to catch you? Manipulative, unconscious people are like water. They flow into the path of least resistance. They do not target people randomly. They scan the environment for energetic signatures. They look for the unspoken shame, the desperate need for validation, the fear of conflict. If you are constantly surrounded by people who drain you, it is because your shadow sent out an invitation. Your refusal to set boundaries was the open door. Your desire to be seen as the good person was the welcome mat. Your fear of your own anger was the guarantee that they would face no consequences. As long as you reject your shadow, you are walking through the world with massive blind spots. You are easily flattered, easily shamed, and easily controlled. The shadow contains the exact tools you need to defend yourself. When you integrate your capacity for cruelty, you instantly recognize cruelty in others, and you are not afraid to meet it with lethal precision. You do not use it to harm the innocent, but you keep the sword sharpened and visible. When you own your selfishness, you cannot be guilt-tripped into sacrificing your life for someone else's convenience. When you accept your own internal chaos, you are no longer terrified of the chaos in the world. Integration is not a weekend project. It is the great work of a lifetime. It is a descent into the underworld of your own psyche. You must sit in the silence and invite the darkest parts of yourself to the table. You must listen to what your rage wants to tell you. You must understand the deep, primal fears driving your anxieties. You must look at the ugliest, most pathetic, most arrogant fragments of your character and say, "You are a part of me, and I will no longer hide you." When you do this, a profound transformation occurs. The internal war ends. The massive amount of energy you previously spent holding the basement door shut is suddenly released into your daily life. Your voice deepens, your posture changes, your eyes acquire a weight that unsettles the unconscious actors around you. They look at you and they realize instantly that the old games will no longer work. You have become dangerous. You have become free. Imagine your life as a sprawling, ancient garden. For years, the walls have been broken down. Anyone could walk in. Vagrants trampled your flowers. Thieves stole your fruit. You stood there weeping, wondering why the world was so cruel, trying to be polite to the intruders, hoping your kindness would change them. Integration is the act of rebuilding the wall. It is the act of forging a heavy iron gate. You are the gatekeeper. You decide who enters and who remains outside. The garden is lush, peaceful, and beautiful, but the gatekeeper is armed. The gatekeeper knows exactly how to fight. The gatekeeper knows the nature of the thieves because the gatekeeper has made peace with the thief inside themselves. This is the ultimate secret of human sovereignty. You do not achieve peace by eradicating the darkness in the world. You achieve peace by domesticating the darkness within yourself. When the shadow is integrated, you stop dancing to the chaotic tunes of unhealed people. You step out of the drama, you claim your kingdom, you lock the gate, and finally, in the quiet strength of your own absolute wholeness, you find rest. Let the unconscious sleep. You are awake.